This is Icarus, New Frontiers Prometheus DLC. One thing Prometheus certainly reinforced is that horses are assholes. I've always thought that, and in this game they are just pure evil, horrible, unsmiling, smelly things really. But for me, New Frontiers Prometheus marks the time that Icarus has removed the splinter of its past. But hang around for a few minutes to find out why. Now, summers in New Zealand can be beautiful things, and I recall once going to a big park, and I was the only one there, so I started doing some training, running, push-ups, because I need to look good for my instas, and at some point I sat down in the middle of the park to catch my breath. There was just me listening to the birds and watching the clouds, and then I turned around and this dog was behind me. I had no idea where it had come from, but it was super friendly and it sat down right next to me. And together for a few minutes we paused and observed the world go past together. Then my friend walked off, striding away without a backward glance to find the next human to empower with his spiritual presence, and I never saw him again. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you've ever had a dog sit beside to help you contemplate life. Now, a good survival game should feel like there is no race to a finish line. It is about meaningful gaps, the breath between sentences, and in a game those pauses are found when you have options ahead of you, you have choices. These can often be your spiritual moments that mould a game to you. Sure, you've got some mission to do, but there is no rush, so instead you focus on making your stables look good. You rearrange your workbenches, get as many animal heads on wall mounts as you can, set out to craft every brew, you pause and refocus. These in-between moments are one thing that can make a survival game great. Valheim had this in spades, and frankly so does Icarus. But a little bit of background first if you don't know anything about Icarus. Keep in mind it is a single player or co-op game. It used to be absolutely mission focused, but it is now morphing like a serial killer's transformation.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Into a fully open world game. Before we dig into this DLC, let's discuss quickly the base game Icarus, which had a mixed start to its life. As this vision that came out of the legendary DayZ founder Dean Hall, although innovative, was perhaps too much for the average beach bob survivor, and along with some pricing controversies, and who doesn't like to sit back and watch those slugfests from the sidelines, Icarus met with mixed reviews from content creators who are perched on the edge of their righteous keyboards, seeking to virtually beat those greedy devs down into their supposed very fat, juicy bank vaults. That all said, the early Icarus game was a lot of fun, but the gameplay mechanic back then was kind of annoying, like a splinter you couldn't remove, always reminding you that something wasn't right. Well, it was like that for me at least. But the devs at RocketWerkz have big ears and like to chat with the community, and in response have provided weekly updates, and last I looked it was update 99. That's a lot, and many of these have been quality ones, not just minor tweaks. They've beefed up Icarus on many levels, smoothed it out, realigned the game, got it back on board that sleek, glistening survivor train, and Prometheus is a sign of that. But this DLC is not free. It will cost you about US $25, and along with the base game, which is required, it will cost you all up about 50 US. Now, some people out there think that DLCs should be one of two things: free, or marginally above that, or else to them it is a soul-searing rip-off. Mr. DayZ recently said in regards to game pricing that it is currently in a race to the bottom, meaning devs are feeling the pinch, and public demand for cheaper and cheaper games is putting smaller studios out of business. And honestly, I hear him, I feel their pain. But I also want cheaper games. But anyway, is the New Frontiers DLC any good? Is it worth it? And the answer is yes. If you were to cough up US$50 for it all and get Frontiers plus the base game, it gives you multiple well-crafted and designed maps, multiple ways of playing the game. And now each map is almost fully open world, with the earlier maps stacked full of missions. The game loop with the space station is considerably better, and the survival mechanisms, the building mechanics are some of the best you will see. They are genuinely good. The game is enjoyable to play now. That splinter is out. And for me, that joy was often in the pauses, which indicate that the overarching design, the mechanics and balance is solid. The missions, which range from small to large, easy to difficult, basically now push you along when you feel like you want that next challenge. Is New Frontiers and Icarus as a whole perfect? No, of course not, but I suspect in the next 6 months Icarus will be rated as one of the better survival games out there, and I see recent Steam reviews are very positive, indicating that others think the same. Prometheus itself is set in a more harsh environment than earlier maps. It has some new biomes which are tougher, and it has one big boss who surprised me and I found a real problem. That sucker chased me all over the place and had me hanging my head in despair, which is how it should be. The DLC map is not as big as previous maps. It felt smaller, and with a mower mount, that is like the New Zealand ostrich, which you will find freely running across our landscape here, you can tear across each biome quite quickly on those long muscly legs. But there are several new biomes: the swamps, the wasteland and the volcanic regions. However, the swamps and wasteland biomes are missing routine depth and real danger. The swamps are a great addition and the atmospherics are exceptional, but they were missing obvious things like crocodiles, snakes and disease, and running through the swampy water didn't really mean much when it should. The Florida marshlands are probably more dangerous with their wandering, gun-happy residents. The swamps do have some good creatures like this weird big dog, needlers and other pretty cool beasts, but it just needed a little more danger. It needed a bit more spice. It was like a good taco without the hot sauce. The wastelands are similar, having top-notch atmospherics, but they needed more tension. It felt a little empty at times. Yes, it is a wasteland, but an empty space means you can see well ahead, so you get no real surprises. More present danger was needed. In the temperate middle biome, where you will spend most of your time, it has a misty, surreal feel, with the sun never quite breaking through the haze. The more time I spent in this biome, the more I liked it. It was well designed. The new creatures overall are good, with the exception of the Drax, which often just sits there in the distance looking at you like a paedophile admiring a school bus. Unsettling and creepy. But to their credit, the Drax will balls up and attack you if you wanted too close. Having said all that, for me every standard creature on this map should be tougher, faster and harder. You should fear them more. Once you get a good bow and firearms, you can take most of them down pretty sharpish. They sometimes just feel a little bit too soft. The building in New Frontiers just layers on top of the general Icarus building mechanics. It is absolutely excellent. There are so many building materials, so many different ways to build, but it is easy to use, and along with advanced lighting and particle effects, you could, if you choose, build things of real beauty. They become your hideaway spot as the ever-present storms tear across the landscape, and who doesn't like a cozy, well-presented homestead whilst you are pottering around doing the dishes or crafting shotgun shells. Along with all this, there are the different ores, new building materials, different plants, exotics of course, new ways to mine those exotics, geysers, new animals to kill and tame, all waiting for you to do something with them if you choose to. New Frontiers, aka Prometheus, is a solid DLC. It isn't super cheap, but honestly, when you purchase it as a package with the base game, you are getting something way bigger than most other survival games, with some of the best mechanics I've seen in recent times. It really is enjoyable, and I suspect you will sink a lot of hours into it if you purchase it. The splinter is out. Thanks for watching. See you in the next chapter.